All right, welcome everybody to the new user webinar part 1, Learning the Basics. My name is Dawn Peterson. I'm a teacher engagement manager at the ASSISTments Foundation. Just some webinar etiquette. We are expecting a very large group today as there's lots of teachers getting back to school. So please make sure your microphone is on mute. That's in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. You can choose to have your video on or off. That is completely up to you. And then the chat is right here in the center. If you haven't found it yet, please go ahead and introduce yourself. Also, since we are expecting a large group today, the chat moderator will be looking at the questions and comments that come through the chat stream. If we don't address something right away, that's because it will be addressed later on in the webinar. But if we don't address it towards the end, please feel free to post that question or comment again. Today we're going to be talking about the 4 steps of assessment. So the goal of today is that you leave understanding what the 4 steps of assessments are, and you'll be able to apply those 4 steps in your Google Classroom or Canvas classroom. The key topics we're going to cover are how to create an account, if you haven't done that yet, how to create an assignment and assign to your students, that's step 1. You'll get to see what the student experience looks like, what kind of feedback the students get as they do their assignments. We'll talk about how to assess the class performance, so how to get that class performance, what kind of information you're going to get on the report. And then lastly, we'll talk about analyzing those answers together, which are step 4. Some real quick introductions. Again, my name is Dawn Peterson. I am a teacher engagement manager at the ASSISTments Foundation. But prior to that, just last year, I was a 8th grade math teacher. I taught 8th grade math here in Massachusetts for 14 years. And I actually used ASSISTments for 10 years in my classroom. So if any questions come up about what does it look like, implementation, things like that, I'm happy to get into more detail about that. And my chat moderator today is Brian Story. And let me get there. And Brian, if you want to unmute yourself and give yourself a little introduction.
Sure. So I'm Brian Story. Welcome, everybody. I am also one of our teacher engagement managers here at ASSISTments. And prior to my work with ASSISTments, I was a teacher for 10 years in Washington, D.C. and Norfolk, Virginia. Very glad to have you today. As Dawn said, you can post questions in the chat as we go. If I don't respond to a specific question, that just means that that question will be answered within the webinar itself.
Fabulous. Thank you, Brian. You will be chiming back in as we go.
Yep.
All right. So before we get into what the 4 steps of assessments are, there's a lot of new teachers who have never used assessments before. So we're going to start out just by what is assessments. So first off, ASSISTments is a free online math tool that provides teachers and students feedback that they need in order to grow in the classroom. Teachers are going to get feedback to present how their students are doing in class. Students are going to get feedback based on the answers that they plug into our system. ASSISTments is designed to be flexible, designed to support different teaching needs in person, virtually, and we have lots of different curriculums to choose from, which we will talk about. Why would you use ASSISTments? I will tell you why. ASSISTments is a research-proven tool. We are proud to be one of the only 3 middle school math interventions with a Tier 1 rating from Evidence for ESSA. And that is based on, let me just scroll through here. I got 2 screens going, I apologize. That's based on a randomized control study that we ran in the state of Maine. And the results of that study showed that students gained an additional 2/3 of a year in math learning. And also ASSISTments lowered the achievement gap. So students who were lower performing actually had more growth. So we are a credible program to start. And we actually have a couple of quotes from some teachers who have used ASSISTments and how ASSISTments solve their problems. So first, I want to highlight Yamika Bullock. She's a 7th grade teacher in North Carolina. And her problem was that she had a very large class. She couldn't address all the feedback that the students needed throughout the class. So using ASSISTments gave her the flexibility to move around and provide feedback to all the students in those large classes, which some of you may relate to. And then Ivory Kutri is also a 7th grade math teacher from North Carolina. And ASSISTments helped her by saving time, reviewing homework, assessing student needs using the assignment report. So these are only 2 teachers. You may have talked to other teachers who are very happy with ASSISTments, and I hope that we get some feedback from you guys at the end as well. So let's start by talking about the 4 steps of assessments. The 4 steps of assessments are essentially what you would do anytime you want to assign independent practice to students. Step 1 is creating the assignment, and you're going to create that assignment right through your LMS, Google Classroom, or Canvas. Step 2 is assisting students through immediate feedback, and this is where the ASSISTments platform is going to give corrective feedback to students as they work. Think about you walking up and down the aisles of your classroom, telling students they're correct, they're incorrect, they need a little bit of help. Step 3 is where you get to assess class performance. The teacher gets to review the data, look for weaknesses, look for strengths, look for common misconceptions. And then step 4 is analyzing those answers together. And we will make some recommendations here about how you can do that in a distance learning setting. All right, so let's start out by just talking about creating the account. Some of you may have created your account already. Some of you may be doing that following the webinar. So first off, in order to use ASSISTments, you do need to have currently a Google Classroom or Canvas account. We are working on a Schoology integration, which we hope is going to be available in the next few months, but unfortunately, that's not going to be ready for the start of the school year. If you are a Google Classroom user, you need to be authorized as a teacher in your school's G Suite. That's something that your school administrators would do on the back end. If they haven't tagged you as a teacher, you're going to request an account, and we're going to manually verify that for you. If you're a Canvas user, you do need to have an institutional Canvas account in order to use the ASSISTments integration. And Canvas does need to do a little bit of back-end work for teachers to be able to use this integration. So we have included a link here, it's also found on our website, that walks the Canvas administrators through that back-end setup, so the teachers will have no problems working with ASSISTments. Just another note is that Brian and I, or anyone on the ASSISTments team, we are not Canvas trainers, we're not Google Classroom trainers, so we are going to try to help to answer all the questions you have about this integration. But if you are stuck at one place or another, or email our help desk, we may have we may refer you back to the Canvas help desk or the Google Classroom support page. All right. So let's get started with creating an account. Now, each one of these steps, I am going to just show you what the steps are, and I am going to live demo them for you so you can see what that's actually going to look like. So creating an account, you're going to start at the ASSISTments website, ASSISTments.org, and you're going to click on Login. You're going to choose your LMS, whether that's Canvas or Google Classroom, and then you're going to be asked to authorize your credentials. So let me go ahead and show you what this looks like, both in Google Classroom and in Canvas, so you can know what to expect if you haven't set this up yet. So here I am at ASSISTments.org. So I'm going to click on Login in the upper right-hand corner, at which point, of course, it logs me in right away. So I'm just going to start this process over again. So here we are, and we're going to log in. And we'll be offered to log in with Google or Canvas. And again, Schoology people who might be on this call still, soon enough, you will have the option to log in with Schoology. So I'm going to start with Google. Now, when I click Google, it's going to ask me to, of course, it's doing this now. It's going to ask me to log in with my Google credentials. So you're logging in with your school ID. Let me see if I can get this going one more time just for the demo. So you're not creating a whole separate account with a separate email address. You're going to be logging in with your Google credentials, which are associated with your Google Classroom account. All right, third time's a charm. Let's see if this works here. And please, fingers crossed. There it is, perfect. So you will be asked to log in with those credentials. And if you're on your own personal device, probably those will show up on that list. Whatever your password is for your school email address associated with your Google Classroom. And you'll know that you're logged in because you'll see your name up in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Let me just show that one more time through Canvas. Canvas is similar, but looks a little bit different. So I'm going to log out of my Google Classroom account. I know there's a lot more Google Classroom people than Canvas, but I want to make sure the Canvas people get what they need as well. So I'm going to press Log In and choose Canvas. Here, if you're logging in with Canvas, Like I said, you are going to, your Canvas admin does need to do a little bit of back end work so that your institution's Canvas ID shows up on this list. If it doesn't show up on this list, this is where you can send these instructions down here over to your Canvas administrator, and they can contact us if they need any support. So when I choose my institution, I'm going to click login. It's going to bring me to my school's login page. So I'm going to click that here. I'll be asked to log in with my school Canvas credentials. So let me show you what that looks like. And you will be asked to authorize the connection. So that's going to happen right here. So I'm going to click authorize. And then again, I know I'm in because I see my name appear in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. So again, that's just the logging in process, whether you're logging in with Google or logging in with Canvas. There's no creating an entire new account. You're using the login credentials that already exist for your LMS. So I'm going to pause here just for a minute and see if there's any questions on anything that you want me to address right now, Brian, before we go on to step one, which is creating an assignment.
No questions at this time. I did just want to clarify for attendees that we will be sending a copy of the slide deck and a recording in our follow-up email after this session for your reference. We did have a few people who were asking about that.
Excellent, thank you. Yes. All right, so let's get started with step one. So step one is where the teacher gets to go on ASSISTments, find the content that they want to assign to the students, and then push that out right through your LMS. So again, I'm going to go through the steps of what this looks like, talk about some of the content that we have, and then I will show this live through Google Classroom and Canvas. So when you are going to complete step one, assigning something to your students, you're always going to start at assistments.org and click on Explore Content. You're going to click through all of the curriculum folders that we have and find the content that you want to assign. So right now, let's just pause and have a look at what we do have for content. A lot of people are coming in saying, I use Engage New York, I use Illustrative, I have a textbook, but not everyone is aware of all the content that we have available to assign. So let's start with our open educational resources. These are basically online free-for-all resources that any teacher can go and use. You can assign independent practice problems, students get immediate feedback, teachers get the data report, and again, these are free for all. We have textbooks. So you may have noticed that your textbook is on the list that we have. Textbooks also give students immediate feedback. The textbooks we have also give the teacher a class and student data report. The catch with the textbook, excuse me, is that we, in order to, let's see, how do I want to say this? For copyright regulations, we actually can't put the questions in, but if your students have a copy of the digital textbook or a physical textbook, we put all the questions in, the problems in, so students can get feedback, even though they're not going to have access to all of the questions. If you have any questions on that or need clarification, I'm happy to do that at the end. We also have some in-house built content. First is skill builders. Skill builders are standalone practice problems that target common core skills. They're organized by grade, common core strand, and they are mastery based, which means that students need to get 3 in a row correct in order to master and place out. So this is a great way to pre-assess skills, post-assess skills, or just give students additional practice for a certain skill. We have problem-solving sets, which is a great bank of questions, also organized by Common Core. Not mastery-based, meaning you can just assign however number you want to students in order to, and you'll get the feedback. And then lastly, we do have some release state tests, Massachusetts and New York being the larger banks of questions. These are not set in test mode, meaning students will get feedback as they go. So they're basically meant to be just practice for the practice state test. All right, so let's get to creating an assignment. So you've gone through, you clicked on Explore Content, find the content that you want to assign to students, and you're going to be brought to a page which looks like this. You're going to choose whichever LMS you want to assign to. You will again be asked to authorize the connection between ASSISTments and your LMS. You'll be asked to make some modifications, you'll import your classes, and then your assignment will push out to your LMS. So let me show you what this looks like, and then we'll see if there's any questions. So again, I'm here on the ASSISTments website. I'm going to click on Explore Content. And again, you can see here's all my open educational resources, textbooks. We do have more, so you can see all our skill builders, problem sets, and release date tests. So for today's demonstration, I'm going to go into illustrative math, which has grade 6 through high school. And I'm going to go into grade 7, unit 2. I just want to note that however the curriculum provider has set up their units, modules, whatever, that's the same way we have replicated that in ASSISTments. And I'm going to choose lesson 2. And that's going to pop open that new window for the problem set. So this is going to show me every question that is in that particular problem set. And if you're a 7th grade illustrative math teacher, these may look familiar to you. You have the option to select all the problems in this problem set, or just choose some that you want to assign. I'm just going to make a selection here of 2 problems I want to assign to my students. So I'm going to check off those boxes. If you want to at this point, and as long as you're logged in, you can take a look at student view. So if you want to run through this problem set as a student to kind of test it out and see what their experience will look like, this is the point that you're going to do that. So I've selected the problem. First, I'm going to assign through Google Classroom, and then I'll show you the same thing through Canvas, though it is very similar. So I'm going to click on Assign to Google Classroom. You may be prompted again to log in with your credentials, depending on what's saved on your computer. The first time you assign, you'll import the classes from Google Classroom. So you'll want to have your LMS all set up with the classes prior to doing this, but you can synchronize afterwards. So I've imported my classes, and I have all the classes in my Google Classroom here on the list. I'm going to choose just one class to assign it to today, but you can see that you can assign to multiple classes at once, and I'll click Next. I can change the assignment name if I like, so maybe I want to keep this simple and call it Tuesday Math Homework. You can set a release date, so it might not want to push out until Monday of next week, Tuesday of next week, and a due date. And then or you can leave those blank, those are optional fields. And since I haven't set a release date, when I click Assign, that's going to get pushed live to Google Classroom. And if we're using Google Classroom, we can now click on View, and it will actually open up our Google Classroom account. And you can see, let's see here, I'm on the right tab. And you can see that the assignment, which I called Tuesday Homework, shows up both in the stream and then also in the classwork tab. Once it loads up, here we go, Tuesday Homework. So let me go ahead and show that real quick during Canvas. Most of those are very similar. I'm just going to log back out, find that same assignment. Let's see if I can do it from here. I think I can. And I'm going to assign to Canvas for those Canvas users out there. I think I just have to log back in because I was in an incognito screen. All right, so I'm getting logged in right now. So you can see I'm in Canvas because it gives the Synchronize with Canvas message. In Canvas, you'll also import your classes. Those classes will show up on this list. So I'm going to choose Ms. Peterson's demo class. And you have the same options here. You can change the name of the assignment, set a release date, set a due date. That is up to you. And then assign. And in Canvas, oh, excuse me, I'm just going to retry. I think I'm logged into too many accounts right now. Let me just do this real quick. All right. And there we go. And then on the Canvas page, you'll see that that assignment shows up. There we go, in the Assignments tab, right down here at the bottom. All right, so that is the assigning process. Regardless of whether you're using Canvas or Google Classroom, you're always going to start at the ASSISTments website. You'll find your content, click on your LMS to assign, and then that's going to push that out to Google Classroom. So I will pause here and see if there's any questions that I can answer from the chat that Brian knows we're not going to address in section 2 or 3. What can I answer for us today, Brian?
No additional questions, just one quick clarification that we currently work with Canvas and Google Classroom LMSs. ASSISTments is working on developing our Schoology integration, which we should hopefully release in the coming months, but we do not have a specific date for that at this time. Just know that we are working on that, and it's getting done.
Yeah. And if you are a Schoology teacher, don't feel like you have to hop off, because the next couple steps that we go through, you're going to see the student experience, which just like Canvas and Google Classroom. The experience for students will be very similar, almost exact, except for how they get the assignment, which is through Schoology opposed to the other LMS.
And then one more question, or one more thing, clarification. LMS just stands for Learning Management System. Canvas and Google Classroom being examples, Schoology being another example. So when we say LMS, that's what we're referring to. Then we've had a few other questions pop up. Are the assignments the exact problems in Engage New York / Eureka?
Yes, the problems are exactly the same. I would say that the only exception is if Assistments wants to clarify some of the directions, just so the student knows the instructions a little bit more clear for them to know what to type into the answer box.
Correct. And then, well, it looks like most of the other questions will be actually answered in the next coming, or the coming section. So I'll leave that.
Okay. Fabulous. And I'll be going through the student experience, and then you'll get to take a look at what the class data is. So let's get right into step 2, where you can see what the student experience will be like in getting immediate feedback. So the students will access their assignment right through Google Classroom or Canvas. So when the student logs in, it will automatically be populated, and within there's going to be an assistments link. When the student clicks on that assistments link, they will be brought to what we call the student tutor, which is basically the student experience. Just a note that the first time students log into Assistments in Assistments 2.0, they will be prompted to create an account, this blue button. It's not going to ask them for any additional information at this time. All it does is generate Assistments to pull their information from Canvas. That's it. Just wanted to note that a lot of teachers say, I didn't think they had to create a new account. So that's all that is. So again, we'll go through what this looks like in the slide deck, and I am going to show it live as well. So this is a view of the student tutor, the student view. So students are going to be presented one question at a time. They'll be able to see how many questions are in that problem set over here on the left. They're going to get immediate feedback shown right down here by their answer box as they go. Let's see, the feedback that the students get through Assistments is corrective feedback. So if they do get the question correct, they're given that messaging, you're correct, and then they can move on to the next problem. If they get it wrong, they're given that messaging, sorry, try again. Students literally have an unlimited number of attempts to hopefully achieve the correct answer. So they can try again, and of course, that's what we encourage them as teachers. If a student is stuck, cannot get the answer, does not know how to do the problem, we do have this show answer button. And what that does is it tells the student what the correct answer is so they can type it in and move on. I will note, this makes teachers very anxious sometimes, but on the assignment report, when you get to see the student data, this will be very obvious who pushed that button, so you'll be able to see if students are really struggling or if students are maybe taking advantage of that button. When the student is finished with the assignment, they always get to see a student assignment report, which is just a summary of their work. If they go over here and hover over these problem IDs, they can review the questions. This is where they're going to see any feedback that they get from open response questions. I'll talk more about that in a bit. And they can see what their score is up against the class score. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do that demo, and then we'll come back and see if there are any questions. So I am here in, we'll start with Google Classroom. I'm here in a student's Google Classroom account, and I'm going to click on the classwork tab. So you can see that the assignment I just posted is right here at the top. So I'm going to open that up and click on the assistance link within. That's going to open up a new tab, which says tutor. So again, this is the student tutor. We usually refer to it as the student experience when talking to the kids. So once again, student gets to see there's 4 questions that were assigned. We get to see the title. Over here is the progress bar, which indicates how many attempts the student made before arriving at the correct answer. So I'm going to play the student here. Like I said, I was an 8th grade math teacher for 14 years, so I think I can do that well. So first, I'm going to be the student who gets it right on the first try. So they're feeling good. They have that corrective feedback. Everything turns green here. And they're stuck at 100%, which just indicates they got it right on the first attempt. I'm going to move on to the next problem. which is part B of the same problem. I can tell that because I can still scroll up and see the first part. So this is asking me the constant of proportionality. So maybe I'm not really sure what that is. I put in the incorrect answer. We're all hoping that our students go back to the drawing board, reread the directions, try again. Still got the wrong answer. You may notice that the progress bar is going down 33% for each incorrect try. And then I have persevered and I got it right on the third try. So I'm stuck at that 33%, which is not a grade for this question, but simply a score indicating how many attempts it took to achieve a correct answer. And now the student can move on. Now, some of you may be wondering, what about the kid who has no idea what they're doing? So that's me right now. Or maybe I'm a student who just wants to see how many digits I can plug in before my teacher comes over and talks to me. So I don't know what I'm doing. That's what this show answer button is here for. When the student press show answer, their progress bar goes right down to 0, indicating that it took them a while, or maybe they didn't even achieve the correct answer. So this is going to allow me to move on. And the last question here, probably most of the curriculums everyone out there is used to, has explanation, show your answer. A lot of teachers in the Facebook group have been talking about wanting to collect students' work in a digital environment. So here, students can show their work, they can type their answers, they can make a table over here, they can upload a picture or a video. I'm going to show you real quick how to upload a picture, because a lot of the curriculums require students to make a graph. So if a student makes a graph on a piece of paper, on some kind of drawing pad on the internet, they can take a screenshot of that, they can upload it. And we have a video outlining this as well on our website. So that's something that actually I think I'm sharing at the end of the webinar. And students are not going to get immediate feedback for this just because of the nature of the open response question. But like I mentioned before, teachers are going to be able to go back in and leave feedback for these open response questions. So I am finished. Like I said, when we are done with the assignment, we get to see the student report. Students can review the questions. Over here on the left, they can see how they performed. Once the teacher leaves feedback, that's going to get shown right here on this report. And we'll talk about these symbols in just a minute. And of course, comparison to the class score. So I'll just real quick go over to Canvas and show you how this differs. Most of the process is exactly the same, but if I am a student in Canvas, I'm going to go into my teacher's account. I'm going to find the assignment in Canvas. So I'll click on this one down here. I believe in Canvas, the most current assignments show up at the bottom. And in Canvas, the link is going to look like so. So the student will click on that link. Canvas does, just a warning, Canvas asks for a lot of authorization. So students may see this a few times, and that's no need to worry. And then they're brought into the student experience, and everything else at this point is going to be exactly the same in Canvas as what you just saw in Google Classroom. So I'm going to pause here, and I just want to note that the next thing we're going to go over is how to access the student data and how to interpret it. I will talk about how to score the essay scoring or open response questions, and I'll show you where students are going to get that feedback. So Brian, I will pause here. Anything I can answer about the student experience?
We have one teacher asking, as a teacher, will they be able to pull up the assignments to show younger students how to navigate the system?
From the teacher account, you will not be able to. Trying to think of the best way. So just as a note, if I go back over here to Google Classroom and Canvas, as a teacher in Google Classroom, when you click on the assignment, that's actually going to bring you into the data report, not the student report. So I would definitely recommend, and we can share this out at the end as well, that we do have a video, which is an introductory video for younger students, for older students, any students that are using ASSISTments. And I think I forgot to say this earlier. We are in the midst of a big website rehaul. So when you come back to ASSISTments next week, this may look a little bit different. But we do have a video to help students. Right now it's in our Distance Learning Help Center, and it's a short video that walks through how to access the assignments, what type of feedback they're going to get. And I'll just note that right over here for now. So if you make it over to the ASSISTments website later on today, those are our student tutorials. getting started. There is one for Canvas and there is one for Google Classroom.
All right.
Hopefully that helps for now. Yeah.
We do have some more questions coming up.
Sure.
Just to repeat for those people who maybe didn't hear this earlier, we operate with Canvas and Google Classroom. We are working on a Schoology integration in the coming months. I don't have a specific date for that yet. We do not offer Schoology at this time. That does unfortunately mean that teachers who can only use Schoology cannot use our platform at this time. But we are looking to add that as soon as we can. And then let's see here. We had someone ask, can you change what the students see? Can you hide the class average?
At this point, that is a very common request, and we have noted it, and we're bringing it over to our higher ups. And currently, you cannot hide the class average on this student report, but we've gotten a lot of teachers asking, they don't want their students to always be comparing themselves. So that is something that we have noted. But at the moment, you cannot hide that.
And just feel free to clarify, you have not covered essay scoring yet?
Not yet. So I showed how for the students to submit their answers, but we will talk about essay scoring in the next step.
Okay. And then will assignments that were created in our 1.0 platform still work in 2.0?
If you already created the assignment, for those of you who aren't sure what we're talking about, our older platform is called Assistance 1.0 and did not integrate into any of the LMSs. So if you already created the assignments in 1.0, those will not transfer over. So you would have to reassign using Assistance 2.0.
Someone asked, how does the score for students get integrated into Google Classroom? So they're asking about passing scores.
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked that. Sometime in August, we're hoping in the next couple of weeks, pushing scores out from the assignment report to Google Classroom and Canvas is going to be released. So I highly encourage you to join our Facebook user group, and any updates on product and things like that will be posted there.
Right. And then can you control the pace of students as they go through questions as a whole group?
You cannot, but I'll show you on the assignment report in just a minute that you will be able to see the total amount of time students spend on an individual question if you desire, and on the entire problem set as well.
All right. And then just to clarify, because someone's asking about textbook material, they were saying, do all publishers post questions fully? To clarify, for our textbook material, that is copyrighted material. We do not upload problem bodies for copyrighted material. However, we upload the organization of the questions, and for each question, the student sees the page number and question, so sort of a GPS coordinate. Teachers who use textbooks will still need to provide students with either a PDF or the actual page number of the questions, but they can still use assessments that way to get the quick data and get students their feedback.
Right. All right. Anything else before we get to accessing the class performance?
No, I think that's it. We have some teachers asking about how they can see what students submit, so you're about to get into that now.
All right, that is me. Okay, so let's get started on step 3. So step 3 for me, I don't know about all you out there, used to be collecting the worksheets, collecting the bookwork, getting my red pen out and correcting it, and that is no longer. So accessing the assignment report. The assignment report is what we call our data report in Assistments, is as simple as logging into your LMS as a teacher and clicking on that assistance link. So when the teacher clicks on this link, they're actually brought to the data report, yet when the student clicks on it, they're brought to the assignment. So let's talk just about what is on the assignment report. And again, I will go live and kind of do a demo through the assignment report so you can see that. On the assignment report, you'll get to see, of course, the title. You'll get to see the answer key, the correct answers that are allowed to be submitted. We get to see the class score for the whole assignment, 64% in this case. And each one of these codes up here is a separate problem. So that's the problem ID. So that tells me how each individual question performs. I also get to see, this is one of my favorite things to use as a teacher, is if there was any common wrong answers, what that common wrong answer was, and the percentage of the students who got it wrong that said that common wrong answer. So this is really great to clarify misconceptions in class. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get back to some more content on the assignment report. So we also get to see individual student data. So down the left-hand side of the report, all of these X's, I've anonymized the student names, but each one of these represent an individual student along with their score for that assignment. As I go down the line for each student, I can see how much time they spent on the entire assignment. I can see their open response or essay scoring answers, whether it's an uploaded picture, whether it's a short response. And we'll talk about these symbols in just 1 minute. One further thing that I'll show you on the demo is the triple dot next to a student name allows you to both delete progress if you want the student to have an opportunity to redo an assignment. And it also gives you the details report, which gives you a little bit of a deeper dive into how the student was performing. Again, I'll show you that when we go into the live demo. Here are the 4 symbols that you're going to see within the report. So the check mark, which is matched with 100%, indicates that the student got this problem right on the first attempt. They get full credit. The green X indicates the student got this problem right on the second or third attempt on their own. They persevered, they got it right eventually, and that's going to be matched with a 67 or 33%. Again, we don't think of those as grades, we think of those as scores, which indicate how many attempts it took the student in order to get success. The red X indicates that the student got it right on their own accord. It took them more than 3 tries though. And then the yellow background, I'm just going to scroll back. Hopefully that yellow stood out to you right when we saw that. The yellow indicates a student that had to press show answer because they struggled or because they were kind of, being a student. So that's what those symbols indicate. So different ways to look at the report. When we see that 52%, when I looked at the report, I would look down and basically look for the yellows and the red X's because that indicates struggle, whereas the check mark and the green X indicates students were finding success. All right, so I am going to go over live to a report. And I think I'll start with Canvas this time, just because I've been behind on Canvas. I've been favoring the Google Classroom people. So I'm going to go into my, my Canvas account. And again, I'm in a teacher's account. And I'm going to find the assignment that I want to see the data for. So I'm going to click right up here. And within this assignment, I'll click on the ASSISTments link. And that's going to open up the assignment report. And like I said, Canvas really wants to authorize and make sure that connection is linked. So right here, I just have a class with 1 student in it. It happens to be my chat moderator, but I'm going to hide a student name and pretend we don't know that. So here's where we can see all of the work that the student did. I see check marks. He did a very good job. I can see how much time he spent. This isn't a very interesting report to look at. So let's look at a more populated version, but that is how you'll access that in Canvas. So over here in Google Classroom, same way, you're going to find the assignment, click on the link. That's also going to be a very small populated report. So I'm just going to go over to a highly populated report. So when I click on that ASSISTments link, that's going to open up the assignment report. Here we go. And first thing I'm going to do if I'm sharing this data with others is hide student names up at the top. And it's also going to scramble all the names so they go in a different order. You know that students, if they didn't, they'd be able to figure out whose data is whose. So just once again, I get to see the average score for the class, score for each individual question. And if you're saying to yourself, how am I supposed to go over that? I don't know what question this is. If you click on this ID up at the top, that'll pop open what that question was in student view for you to review with your class or just review it for yourself. Let's see here, common wrong answers right down here. We get to see what the correct answers were, and notice that for this question, there was 2 acceptable correct answers. So there's not only going to be 1 for every problem. Just want to also note that there's sorting features here. So if you do want to sort by average score to see the students who struggled versus the students who performed very well, you can do that. You could sort every column. All right, I would like to show you here the triple dot. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit to a student that I think I might want to dig a little bit deeper on. And this is not something you're going to do to every single student, but as students you want to take a deeper dive. I can see this student scored a 30% and they asked for the answer on 3 of those questions. So I'm going to look at a details report here. And the details report, just to give you a quick overview, is a deeper dive into this student. It gives you the play-by-play, when they started the homework, how long it took them before they gave their first response, it was incorrect, so forth and so on. So it gives me a little bit more insight about whether that student struggled, whether they moved too quickly. I saw someone comment earlier that they really like ASSISTments because it gives the teacher a little bit more information and makes the student more accountable. So I appreciate that, and this is where you can get that information. On the detail scoring page is also the first place that you can score the student work. So just as a note, this was an essay question, which is the open response format. Here's the student's answer for this one. So over here, you can give a score on a 4-point scale and leave feedback for that student, and that will automatically carry back over to the assignment report. I'm going to continue and show you the other way to do essay scoring, but I'm just going to pause because I'm giving you a lot of information. And Brian, are there any questions coming up yet that doesn't have to do with essay scoring that I can answer?
Just a few questions about stuff that's already been covered.
Okay.
So do we have the assessments for Eureka Math?
I believe we do. They are not currently in test mode, which means the student will get feedback as they go through the assignment.
Okay, and all of that can be found within the Eureka Math folders for a person's grade. Yep. And can teachers assign a score to each question?
The only custom scoring teachers can do is for the essay scoring questions. We've gotten that request, so that's something that is on our back burner of things that we're going to think about when adding new features to ASSISTments.
Right. And someone asked, the scores that will be pushed out will be the accuracy score. I just want to clarify that the score reflects the amount of struggle that the student went through. Mm-hmm. The score is not us grading the student for accuracy on their final answer. It's showing how many attempts they made, et cetera.
Right. And that's reflected, like I showed you, the 100% is they got it right the first try, 67 is correct on the second try, et cetera. And just a note there that if a student does struggle and they are retaught or want another try, right on the triple dot is where you can delete progress and give the student another shot at that assignment. All right, so I showed you the first way to get to the essay scoring, which was right through the details report. The other way to score the open response or essay questions is by clicking on essay scoring up here at the top. Again, this is for Google Classroom or Canvas. So when I click on essay scoring, that's going to open up a new window with all of the student responses. And again, I'll hide those student names for now. You can choose which columns you really need. You might not want to see the custom sort feature or anything like that. But here's where for this individual question, and up here you can actually show what the question is if you don't recall what it is. You can score them on a 4-point scale and leave them any kind of feedback. That's going to automatically save. Sometimes if you blink, you might miss it. For example, if I say great work and then click out, you can see that it did say saving really quick. So that will carry back over to the assignment report. And someone was asking, I think, how do the students get that feedback? So if you do leave feedback for a student, the messaging that feedback was left is not automatic through Canvas or Google Classroom. So you as the teacher will have to notify students that you left feedback. And that could be done through a class email through your LMS. It could be through a class comment. So here I left a comment on that assignment that just says, I want you to click back into the ASSISTments link in order to see the feedback that I gave you. Pretty simple to do. So let me show you what that looks like from the student view. So the student will get to see what their score was, which was of course 1 out of 4. And then the teacher comment here was, please watch the video again. Maybe that video was posted in Google Classroom. So that's where the feedback is. Same thing through Canvas. You can leave a message in Canvas to let the students know that you left some feedback for them. Let's see here. I'm trying to think if there's anything I missed. I don't think so. Any questions coming up about the data report that I can, one thing I want to clarify while you're finding your unmute button, Brian, is when we see a blue circle that indicates with the 0%, of course, that the student hasn't started that assignment yet. When you see this half circle, that indicates the student has started the assignment but has not finished it. And then when we just see a percentage next to the student name, the student has completed the assignment. All right, what else can I address right now, Brian, before we start talking about step 4, sharing the data out with the student?
Sure. So we had someone ask why do they have to request assessments for illustrative math or open up via email, reaching out to us at contact@ASSISTments?
Yes, happy to answer that. So illustrative math and open up resources, we used to have their assessments free and available. You may notice that as before you have even logged in, you can go to explore content, you can go through all of our content, kind of see what we have to offer. We give you a little taste before you go in. So technically students could be going here and looking at the assessments and knowing all of the test questions before we post them. Illustrative math and open up resources specifically asked us not to post the full content assessments on our website. But if you do email contact@assistments.org and just say, I'm an open up teacher, I'm an illustrative teacher, can I have access? We will share that with you right away.
All right, I think that is, oh, there is another question.
Yep.
Can parents access their student scores?
Parents can access their student scores if they are listed as a parent who gets notification through Google Classroom or Canvas. So I mean, first and foremost, a parent could just log into their student's account and see those scores going through the student reports. But as soon as we push the scores to Google Classroom and Canvas, which again should be happening in the next couple of weeks, if the teacher is listed as I think it's a reporter, Brian, I'm not sure if you know the name, listed as a parent, then they'll be able to log in and see those scores as well.
Right. And if anybody has follow-up questions about that, you can feel free to reach out to us at Contact Assistance as well.
Yes. All right. Anything else, or should I move on?
I think you're good to go ahead and move on.
Okay, fabulous. So now we are on to step 4, which is analyzing the answers together. Now you can imagine that this has changed a whole heck of a lot since this past year. Analyzing the answers together used to look a little bit like, well, in both cases, whether we're remote or working in the classroom, we celebrate successes with students, notify them of a problem that the whole class did excellent on. We review and we reteach the concepts with the students. Reviewing the data report with students and showing where students are struggling, where the successes are, really facilitates meaningful math discourse with those students. They're learning how to read data. They're looking at those common wrong answers and having conversations about them. And it really does also reinforce a growth mindset, letting them know that, like Brian said, incorrect attempts are okay. Struggling is okay. I think especially in math, struggling helps you to learn and it's part of the process. If we were in the classroom, we would be doing this maybe on a smart board projected in the front of the room, start the class with a review of the homework or the exit ticket the night before, rather than having students raise their hand and say, who got number 1 wrong? Who has a question on number 2? We have all the data so the teacher can automatically drive the instruction as soon as class starts. We can also use that data, and like I showed you, the custom sort tool. You can sort students and find out which students may need a little bit more support or reteaching. If you have a co-teacher, you might have those kids do some relearning. Since we are not all in the classroom at the start of the year, we have some recommendations, and I am going to show you a short video, only about a minute and a half, of ways to analyze answers virtually. So just since March, we've had teachers creating some great Screencastify videos, just going over the assignment report, same as you would if you were in the classroom. Share and discuss the data during a live virtual class if you're doing those in the fall. Ask students to comment and reflect on common wrong answers via a discussion on your LMS or through some other form. So I'm going to show you real quick, again, just a minute and a half video of a teacher that's been working with assistants for a long time, reviewing an assignment report virtually. So here we go.
Hey, Dawn, really quickly, the volume is very low on the video.
Is that better?
Not really.
All right. Well, something happened from when I did my trial, but I will tell you that will be in the slide deck for you to review when that gets emailed out. I'm sorry if you couldn't hear it. But you can see just from watching that short snippet of the video, the teacher has the ability to share the report, like you can see on that screenshot right now, share the problem, and be able to discuss that for the student. All right, so I'll pause again for questions, and then we're going to start with the wrap-up process. We'll share some resources and just recap what we talked about today.
We do not have any new questions at this time.
Okay, great. And I very much encourage you to watch that video. It's only 1.5 minutes, and it's a great example of how you could share data with students in a virtual environment. All right, so let's talk about wrap up and next steps. I've had such a wonderful time with everyone today. Just so you know, this is our first session of our new webinar series for the fall. So thank you for joining us. So today we talked about how to create an account. Please use the slide deck in the video that we send as a follow-up as a resource if you need some review on how to do that. We talked about step 1, how to create an assignment. Step 2, what the student experience will look like. And I encourage you to look at those student support videos that we have on our website. Step 3 is assessing class performance. And step 4, which Brian will be talking about in our next webinar a little bit more in detail, analyzing those answers together. I have some tips for getting started, and these are all linked to useful resources, so I encourage you to look at these later. We do have a parent letter template, which is a great resource to help communicate with parents and students how to use assessments, how the score is not a grade, to foster that growth mindset. We have a student reflection form, which I was always a teacher that really wanted to hit home to students that they should still be doing their work on paper and reflecting on how they're doing. So this is something that a teacher had created and we've adopted that really helps out. We have a learning assistance practice set. Our third tip is make sure that when you start assessments with students, it is low stakes and you're not giving them something that's really going to challenge them right off the bat. We do want them to get used to using the assessments platform and getting comfortable with it. And our learning assistance practice set is a really low stakes, just kind of getting used to the assistance practice set that you can assign as your first pass. Fourth is model a clear protocol for open response questions. Again, we have a video for open response questions, how to upload the pictures, things like that. All students are going to have different technology at home, so we can support on our end, but students are going to have their struggles at home. So definitely be there to help out with them. And then lastly, start reviewing assignment data from day 1. Make it a habit. The more consistently you do that with students, the more they're going to get out of it. And we recommend reviewing the data with students 75% of the time. Assessments is not a grading tool. Assessments is a formative instruction tool. So I encourage you to come to one of our upcoming webinars. We have drop-in help sessions bi-weekly, so if you do run into some issues, feel free to drop in with Brian and myself. We can help you through. New user webinar part 2, like I said, Brian's going to be hosting that, and he's going to dig into what to do with the data, how to share it with students, and how to get into a comfortable, consistent routine with assessments. And our first targeted webinar is going to be at the end of the month, getting the best start in class and from a distance. And we're going to feature some assessments teachers for question and answer. They're going to share some of their experiences there. So I hope to see you. The sign-up's right down here at the bottom, and that'll be shared with you through the email as well. And I just want to highlight some quick resources. Our user resources page has some great slide decks and videos that will be helpful. Our blog highlights different teacher tips and tricks and things like that. Our distance learning help center is where I showed you the student support videos are. And I mentioned before, we are going to have a rehaul of the website, so this might look a little bit different than the images that you see here. Join our Facebook user community. We have grown so much in the last couple of months, and there's always teachers sharing and asking questions. We have a monthly newsletter. We're on social media, and Brian and I are on the other end of contact@assistments.org to help you with any struggles that you have. So last step, almost the last step, is we'd love to hear in the chat real quick. Based on what you learned today, what is your priority next step for getting started with assessments? You may want to explore the content. You may haven't even set up your Google Classroom or Canvas yet. you may be a Schoology teacher and you just want to explore a little bit more before we release our integration, which will be coming soon, I promise. So if you could post that in the chat. I don't know, Brian, if you want to share out some of those responses, just so we can see what everyone is going to be doing next.
Sure. People are saying explore content, getting things set up with Canvas. I know a few folks are going to be reaching out to their Canvas admins. People want to look through our tutorial materials, videos, user resources, assigning, looks like exploring the different content that's available, setting up with Google, so all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
Looks like some teachers want to spend some time sharing this with their team. So yeah, good stuff.
Great. And just to note that we do have a follow-up survey that we're just going to post in a moment. But if there is something that you think would be valuable as a tutorial support for students, for classes, for anyone, for parents, please let us know. Along with our website rehaul, we're also adding a lot of new supports and for teachers, students, parents, everyone. So any suggestions that you have would be super helpful. All right. And Brian is going to put a quick feedback. It'll only take a minute. There's just a few questions in the chat. So we'd love it if you could go to this TinyCC link and just leave us some feedback about how today went. Like I said, this is the first of our newly released webinars for the fall. So any feedback that you have would be great. You do choose the date, which is today, August 4th. And the title of this webinar is New User Webinar Part 1, Learning the Basics. So if you could do that before you log off, that would be super. We'll also send it in the follow-up, but usually it's a lot easier while you're still in the Zoom call right now. So I will leave you to that. I give you a moment to fill that out, and I'd like to say thank you for joining us today. The rain is coming down hard here in Massachusetts, so I'm going to be shutting my windows after we get off the call today. Please don't hesitate to email us at contact@assistments.org if you have any questions at all. And we'd love to see what you have in your feedback, ask any follow-up questions. If there's any further questions you have at this time, please post them in the chat. And Brian and I will be staying on for a couple more minutes to answer those.
Yeah, so we have a few questions that popped up. I want to make sure we get to those. Let me just scroll up here.
Yeah.
If I
Brian,
want,
Brian, did you post the link in the chat? Just want to make sure everyone has. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. So it's one person asked if I want students to do the questions within a slideshow or embedded in a lesson, is that possible?
Yes. It's a little complicated, but yes. So, so you're asking if you want to take the link for assessments and put it into some kind of hyperdoc, is that allowed? So let me just clarify. This link right here that I assign to your class, this specific section, applies to only the students that are in that class. So if I have a hyperdoc specific to my math, your class, I can take this link, copy the link, and paste it into a different location. Let me just show you what this is going to look like. I just want to note that anyone who is not in that class is not going to be able to access. So if I click here, student clicks on that account, excuse me, on that link, they will be prompted to log in with their school account, and they'll have access the same way that you just saw through if they went through Google Classroom. So I'm just going to say it again because this is really important. You can't just make one link and just share it with every student in the whole grade. The link is specific to the section class that you made, if that makes sense. Does that help, Brian? Are they posting yes, I hope?
No, I think that was helpful. The next question folks had was which content that we have has hints in it versus content that does not?
Yeah, I will tell you that this summer, Assistments is working on adding hints, adding explanations, things like that. So that is going to be found in the open educational resources. So I'm not sure if they're up live yet or whether that's going to happen in the next couple of weeks, but those are going to be in the open educational resources. Also, our skill builders and problem sets do have built-in hints. So as a student's doing a skill builder, for example, maybe they're practicing adding integers as a first skill of the year, something like that. If they get it wrong, they will be given hint support as they go.
All right, I think that is the last of the questions. We'll hold off just for a second since there are still a bunch of people in to see if there are any other questions that pop up. If you're good to go, feel free to go ahead and click leave in the bottom right-hand corner of the Zoom chat. And Dawn and I will be doing a recap of our session after everybody has left. And we do appreciate everybody joining us today. And someone asked, let's see.